Tonight, as we continue to watch the primary elections across the country, President Trump is suggesting that he interfered in California's elections after falsely claiming that the state's voting was rigged against GOP gubernatorial candidate Steve Hilton.
I called up the very powerful, very good U.S. attorney in California, and I said, do me a favor, take a look. They're trying to steal that election, too. About an hour after the call, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Hilton has won. So had I not made that call, Steve Hilton would right now be watching the election from home.
Hilton will face former Health and Human Services Secretary Javier Becerra in November, and Trump has repeatedly accused California of election fraud, despite having zero evidence for it. But this is the first time that he's acknowledged directly asking for an investigation and an intervention in an ongoing election. I mean, there's the Georgia case when he calls up and asks for the missing votes, but what is he doing here? And I don't think anybody should feel comfortable about the president picking up the phone, asking the U.S. attorney to dig into an election that is currently underway with zero evidence of anything going wrong.
Well, Steve Hilton said that he didn't have any evidence of anything going wrong either. The president likes these narratives, but there is one part about his frustration that is legitimate. California takes too long to count the votes, and they do it deliberately. First off, they let you mail your ballot on election day, so it can come in a week afterward. Then they let you have weeks to come in and cure your ballot if there's a problem with your signature. It doesn't engender no, it doesn't engender confidence.
But hold on, you're laying out a bunch of legal things in the state of California. Hold on. You're laying out a bunch of things that are perfectly legal in the state of California. You might find them annoying, fine, but they are legal. Why is the president picking up the phone, calling the U.S. attorney, and basically asking him to make his preferred candidate win?
He's asking to investigate if there's any fraud. And it is not just a frustration, it's not an annoying thing.
Why does Trump think that as a result of that phone call, the magic result was that his candidate won?
I can't tell you why he thinks what he thinks, but I can tell you that most voters, regular Americans, think it's ridiculous that California takes so long to count votes.
Most voters don't live in LA or don't live in California. They don't have to worry about it. They don't live there.
Fast, or do you want it accurate?
Well, exactly.
Do you want it fast?
You can have it fast
or do you want
and accurate.
No, you can't.
Sure
Not
you
in a
can.
state with 40 million people.
No, you can.
No, we have a lot of people.
Texas counts their ballots much faster
Texas
with
is a state that gets to decide how its election works.
Are we states' rights or are we not?
California is a state that gets to allow how its election works.
It's not illegal. That's not an illegal thing. It's just the rules in California.
It takes a long time to count them to make sure they're all legal.
That engender
and
a lack
again,
of confidence.
you don't live there.
Why?
So
here's the thing. We're going to have.
We're fine with it.
Can I just
We're
ask you,
fine. We're both from California.
Why
We're fine.
does it actually engender a lack of confidence? Like Steve Hilton, like every other candidate in California, Republican and Democrat, looks at the election ballots coming in. Correct. He won some late ballots too.
Sure.
It doesn't, he does not have a lack of confidence. I just think saying things like it engenders a lack of confidence creates a narrative around it.
Swift counting with certainty upon the receipt of ballots on election day equates to confidence in the process.
No, it's not.
Yes, it does. It happens everywhere else in the world.
Well, that's also what the data suggests.
It is the data, yes.
The polling overwhelmingly suggests that the longer it takes for a result, the more questions people have.
Whether or not they're fair questions.
If you've ever done a recount, you know that all the problems
This is not a conversation. This is not a conversation about what engenders confidence. This is a conversation about whether or not there was actually any wrongdoing. Any reason for you or the president to say that there was anything that went wrong in this election? Do you have evidence?
I'm not taking that position.
Okay.
I haven't taken that
Well,
position.
then that's what we're talking about here.
I like mail-in voting.
We are not talking about vibes, okay?
Right.
Like the point is
the public
that
has a right to be
President Trump
confident in
has
the
claimed election fraud in every election that he has lost. Okay? Why? Not because there was anything wrong with those elections, but because he doesn't like losing. So when the president of the United States, with the biggest bully pulpit in the world, tells all of the people in this country to not trust elections, what do you think doesn't engender confidence? Is it that they're counting the ballots, or is it because the president, with his megaphone, is casting doubt because he doesn't like to lose?
But Abby, you got to
Which one is it? No, but which one engenders
black and white like
less
that.
confidence?
I don't think it's like that.
Is it the actual way that they count ballots, or is it the president sowing
No,
doubt.
it's the way they count
lying.
ballots.
It is the way
No,
it's
it is.
absolutely
So you mean
So
to
you're
tell me-
suggesting that it's not the president
Yes,
repeatedly
I am.
lying
So you
about
mean to tell
elections?
me if Steve
it is
Hilton
the-
was the
first
runaway
off-
winner, we wouldn't be
first
having
off,
this conversation at all?
This is going to not happen anymore in about a week. The Supreme Court is considering Watson versus Republican National Committee, which is a lawsuit that will stop states from accepting ballots after Election Day. Every state in the country will have to have ballots in the door by the time the polls close. That is the first step toward getting a system we can
that
all
is
trust.
very-
Actually,
but that
it's
is very
ridiculous that
problematic.
Republicans are championing a state, basically a Supreme Court throwing out state rules on voting.
Here's the thing. Even if that, let's say that happens, that would be a change of the rules. Everyone gets to abide by the rules. Guess what? The rules are what they are today. But I do want to ask you again, do you think that Trump's repeated lies about elections have eroded confidence in elections
I
in this
think
country?
that Trump's suspicions about mail ballot
What about the lies?
reflect
What about
the
the lies,
suspicions
Brad?
of the
Actually
voters.
No,
lying.
seriously.
He's
What?
I think they
Hold on a
reflect
second.
suspicions of the voters.
don't think you're
I'm
gonna answer
addressing
that
the root
question.
cause of
But
what
hold
you're
on,
suggesting.
I'm asking
You're
you a
not gonna
question
answer the
because
question.
Trump is not talking about things that he just doesn't like. He is straight up lying about things that happened in elections. In the 2020 election, he lied repeatedly about pretty much everything that he claimed happened in that election. You don't think those lies had any impact?
I am talking about what this segment was here. We showed a bite of the president talking about the California election counting process,
So- And
him
causing a
saying
lack
he
of
called up a
confidence.
U.S.
He's
attorney.
right.
So hold on a second.
No.
So Trump again in
I
this
don't think you should call
California
the U.S. attorney, but I think he's
He
right
said
that
he
the
called the
process.
U.S.
in this
attorney.
case, Brad, Trump is also lying about what's going on in California. And you don't think that that's a problem?
I didn't hear him cite any evidence of fraud in California. Steve Hilton
But he
says there's
lied
no
by
evidence.
saying
But
that
he
his
lied.
call changed the result.
His call didn't change the result.
It didn't.
But you're losing the plot here.
No,
No,
you're
you're
losing
losing
the
the
plot.
The substantive
losing the
thing that
plot.
affects
No,
this country
no,
going
because you're trying to
forward
defend
is whether
something
the
that's
public
indefensible.
trusts
That's
the
why
way
you
we
sound
feel.
crazy
Actually, what affects the country in November is the fact that the president of the United States lies about elections.
I get it. Democrats
all
think
the time.
everything's about Donald
I
Trump.
don't think
It's about the bad
he
rules
makes
in
it about
California.
segment was actually
Okay.
about Donald
All
Trump.
right,
You're going to talk about how to fix things in the country.
Let me try
You
this
gotta talk
one
about
more
how to
time.
fix
Well, a
this
big
problem.
In the
thing to fix would be him not lying.
Republican-controlled state of Georgia, Trump went searching for thousands of votes. Was he lying about what happened to those votes?
I think that ballot was counted by people who I trust to count. I think the Georgia
So was he
result
telling the
was
truth
legit.
or was he lying?
I'm not going to evaluate everything Donald Trump
you
has
just
ever
don't wanna
said.
call him a
I'm just
liar.
not
That's
gonna do
anything.
it.
You just don't wanna say what it
substantive
is.
thing
All right.
We can play this game if you want,
Well,
but the
no, it is
substantive
not a
question
game.
going
Here's the
forward
thing.
is
It
what do
is-
we do about fixing
Brad,
confidence
here's the
in
thing.
elections?
It is not. It is actually
ending
not.
saying
mail
elections
balloting,
aren't
ending
fake.
post.
It is
post-election
actually
counting.
not a game. It's not a game. It is actually about what is true and what is false.
Correct.
If
We
the
need to
president
not count
has
ballots after
proof,
Election Day.
But that's
if
not
the
the point.
president has
that's not the
proof
point.
No,
No, the president
of
is lying is the
fraud,
point.
he would have brought it forward by now. But the truth is that he has lied repeatedly. It has been proven. He has lost every single case when it comes to the election claims that he has made. Those are lies, okay? That
You
is
can
not a
keep
game.
litigating Donald Trump's
It's
word
not a
if you want.
game.
It's
We're
more
not losing the
constructive if
plot.
we talk about
We are
what is
staying
causing the
on the
American
plot. The
public to
plot
not have
is
confidence,
the plot
and that is the fact that California
But Brad,
counts ballots in such a way that people can't
here's
trust
the plot. In America, people get to cast votes. Those votes get to be counted according
Yes.
to the
They should
jurisdictions
count them by election
where they
day.
No,
live.
Have their ballot
And
turned
if
in
there
by
is
election day.
fraud,
Period.
that
They should
fraud,
show up in person on election
if
day.
there
and
is
count them by
fraud,
election
that
day.
the way you
that
want
fraud
it.
should
Yeah.
be
Okay,
proven. And any time that somebody has a claim of fraud, bring the evidence. We'll take a look at it. The courts will take a look at it. But that has never happened.
But we
It has
should have a
never
mechanism
happened.
that has
And
as little
so it has
subjectivity
Hey,
in it as possible.
I'm still waiting for President Trump to bring the evidence of fraud that he claims is in California or anywhere else where he has lost an election. And let's see if it's actually real or if it changes the result. So far, it has not. Next.